tax? Well, today we've got the answer because we're joined by Dylan Bond, a registered investment advisor representative, a licensed insurance professional, and the owner of Bond Financial Services. Dylan, your title's a mouthful, but it's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's get started. What is an estate tax?
An estate tax, actually in the state of Massachusetts, we actually have a federal estate tax we need to be aware of and a state estate tax that we need to be aware of.
So you get hit twice?
Well, in some ways you do, yeah. And really what it is depending on the amount of money that you have when you die, you are in a position where you might have to pay a federal estate tax and a state estate tax. The big thing to understand about estate taxes right now is that the rates are changing. In 2012, if you pass away, you can pass away with up to $5.1 million worth of estate before you have to worry about paying an estate tax.
So you pay nothing under that level?
Federally.
Okay.
In the state of Massachusetts, it's a little different, but you really need to speak to a local attorney that's aware of those numbers. But really what you have to understand is right now the federal estate tax is $5.1 million with a highest bracket or highest estate tax rate of 35%.
Okay.
As of January 1st, 2013, the number goes back down to $1 million and the maximum rate goes up to 55%.
Wow.
So there's some
big change.
It's a big change. There's a lot of people that believe before it happens there'll be some alterations to that.
Last minute tweaking.
Some last minute tweaking. Yeah.
It seems like it's a pretty gigantic step from $5 million to $1 million, and from 35 to 55%.
35% to 55%. And really, I think some of the things that people need to be aware of that are calculated in a gross taxable estate. One of the most overlooked assets out there is life insurance. Life insurance death benefit is tax-free, income tax-free. But if you own the life insurance in your name, when you die, that life insurance death benefit is calculated in the overall gross taxable estate.
And that's oftentimes for a good chunk of change.
Exactly. Well, think about it. If you have a $500,000 life insurance policy and a $400,000 house, and a $300,000 or $400,000 retirement account and some other savings in the bank, you're well over $1 million. And if you're not taking inventory of this and understanding what your options are, there could be a time down the road when you do pass away that your kids are going to be faced with a pretty big estate tax. So it's very important.
And you hear those stories so often. You think everything's financially great, and then a relative dies, and then the kids come to find out that they didn't check their balances, they didn't cross their T's and dot their I's. They're in a boatload of trouble.
Seth, one thing I do with everybody I meet with when we're talking and try to get to know each other is really just get an understanding for what they have and where they are in life. And make sure that they do have the right estate planning documents in place, whether it's a will, whether it's a type of trust, healthcare proxies, power of attorneys. These are all pieces of a well thought out financial plan. And unfortunately, I meet with many people every week for the first time, and a lot of people I meet with do not have these types of documents in place. And I think they'd be very well served to do so.
Absolutely. But if people kind of don't want to sit down one-on-one with you just quite yet, maybe they want to kind of feel you out first, meet you in person.
Right.
They can do that at a lot of these seminars that you're always throwing.
Yeah, I do a program called the 7 Fundamental Ways to Not Outlive Your Money. And really we're talking about a lot of things facing people at or near retirement today. They're geared for people 50 and older. And really what we're doing is we're doing them all over the area. We do them at Tucker's Restaurant in Southwick. We do them at La Cucina de Hamden House in Hamden. We do them at Spoletos in East Longmeadow, just to name a few. And we do them every other week at certain times of the year and every week at other times of the year. But really it's a good way for people to sit down and let me, for about 45 minutes, explain everything that I see out there that people should be thinking about in a more general concept educational format, so they can learn how I do things, how I think, what I think they should be taking into consideration. And at that point in time, at the end of the program, if they decide they'd like to meet with me at that time, the commitment I make to everybody is I'll meet with nothing more than a pen, a pad, and a calculator. We're not going to try to sell anything, because that's not a way to build a long-term relationship.
Exactly.
But we're going to sit down and we're going to get a little bit more into detail based on the specific person or couple's situation.
And it's so easy to get in touch with you, too. If people are interested in either the seminars or sitting down with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, well, the thing is there's limited seating, so it's by reservation only. The best thing to do is call George at the office. It's 413-754-4747. And he will have all the available upcoming dates, where the locations are. We normally start at 6 o'clock at night, so anybody that's still in their working years can still have time to get there. And then, he'll be able to give that information at that time.
Well, Dylan, thank you so much for stopping by. I love all
you.
these tips. I learn something new every week, and it's pretty important that I learn this stuff.
It
too,
is.
don't you think so?
You're going to be well ahead of your time.
Let's hope so. And you can visit bondfinancialservices.net, or you can give them a call, 413-754-4747, and just let Dylan and his staff take the steps to secure your financial future.